My daughter-in-law's voice sliced through the Christmas chatter like a knife. My mother brought food too, so we can feed the old woman's dishes to the dogs. The room went silent. Every head turned toward me, holding its breath, waiting to see what I would do. My heart raced, but my face stayed calm. I set my casserole dish down gently on the table, straightened my back and smiled at her guests. "Well," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Since we're being honest, let me share what she really thinks about each one of you." The air froze. Forks stopped midway to mouths. Glasses hovered in the air. Eyes darted between me and my daughter-in-law, who now looked like someone had snatched the rug from under her feet. And right there, before the Christmas tree twinkling in the corner, I prepared to reveal secrets that could shatter her shiny little world. But before I tell you exactly what happened next, let me introduce myself properly. My name is Margaret. I'm 63 years old and I live in North Carolina, here in the United States. Before I continue, if you are listening to this story right now, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and click the notification bell so you won't miss the next chapters of my story. And while you're at it, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I'd love to know. Now let's go back to how all of this started. It had been 10 whole hours of sweat, chopping, stirring, and baking in my kitchen. I wanted everything to be perfect for my son's Christmas party. Christmas had always been important to me. Back when my husband was alive, we would host the biggest dinners in town. Our house smelled of roasted turkey, cinnamon pies, and apple cider. Laughter filled the rooms and neighbors dropped by to sing carols. Those days were golden, but after he passed, Christmas never quite felt the same. So when my son married Emily, my daughter-in-law, I thought maybe things would brighten again. She was young, stylish, with a voice that always carried across a room. I told myself she'd bring life back into the holidays. I wanted so badly for us to be close, like mother and daughter. But as time went on, the cracks began to show. Emily had a way of looking at me, like I was a piece of old furniture she didn't know where to place. Polite smiles at first, then shorter visits, then whispers that stopped when I entered the room. And now this Christmas party felt like my chance to prove myself useful again, to show that my cooking, my presence still mattered. I started the night before, marinating the turkey, preparing the stuffing, kneading the dough for bread. My back ached, but I pushed through. I could almost see the smiles on the guests' faces as they tasted my food. I imagined Emily giving me a nod of approval, just maybe a small one, but enough to say, "You did well." That thought carried me through the exhaustion. When I arrived at their house, the driveway was already full of cars. The porch glowed with fairy lights, music drifted through the walls, and laughter spilled into the night air. My arms ached as I carried tray after tray of food inside, smiling as people greeted me at the door. The kitchen was busy, pots clattering, ovens humming, bottles of wine popping open. Emily was in the center of it all, dressed in red velvet, her blonde hair pinned perfectly. She looked like the star of the show. I set my dishes down carefully, one by one. The smell of rosemary chicken, honey-glazed ham, mashed potatoes with garlic butter, pecan pie, all filled the room. For a moment I felt proud. For a moment I thought maybe tonight would be different. Then Emily's voice rang out, sharp and mocking. "My mother brought food too, so we can feed the old woman's dishes to the dogs." The laughter around her hushed instantly, but the damage was already done. Her words echoed in my head. Old woman, dogs. All those hours of work, all my hope of peace between us, shattered in a heartbeat. And that's when I looked at her guests, smiled, and began to speak. But what I told them that night, that's where things turned from shocking to unforgettable. The silence after my words stretched long enough for the Christmas lights to buzz in my ears. Guests shifted in their seats, some leaning forward as if they couldn't believe what was about to happen. My daughter-in-law Emily's cheeks flushed pink, but she masked it with a brittle smile. She was sure I wouldn't dare. She had always believed I was too timid, too old, too careful to cause a scene. But she didn't know the years of swallowing my pride, of holding my tongue, of being the quiet one in the corner while people like her took the spotlight. Something inside me snapped that night, and I was ready to let it all out. "Well," I began, locking eyes with one of the guests at the table. "Since honesty is the theme tonight, let's be honest." I paused deliberately. A man in a gray suit chuckled nervously. Someone else whispered, "Oh my God." John, I said, nodding toward Emily's coworker sitting with a glass of red wine. You might like to know that Emily thinks your wife's Christmas sweaters look like clown costumes. She laughs about it every year. Gasps filled the room. John's wife stiffened, her hand flying to her sequin sweater. Emily's smile cracked, just a little. And Sarah, I continued, turning to another guest. Emily says you only get invited because she needs someone to bring cheap wine. The air grew heavy. Sarah's jaw dropped. Emily tried to speak, but I held up a hand. Don't interrupt, dear. We're being honest, remember? Now, if you are listening right now, let me pause for a second to remind you. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and click the notification bell so you'll always catch the next parts of this story. And tell me, from what part of the country are you watching? I love to hear where my viewers are from. Back to the party. The more I revealed, the quieter the room became. One by one, I laid bare little secrets Emily had carelessly whispered in my presence, thinking I wasn't listening, or that I wouldn't dare repeat them. She had underestimated me. But let me take you back a few days before the party, because this confrontation didn't come from nowhere. The Wednesday before Christmas, Emily had called me. Her tone was sweet, sugary almost, but her words carried sharp edges. Margaret, she said, I guess you can bring something if you really want to. Just don't make anything too old-fashioned. People these days prefer lighter food. You know, not so heavy, not so traditional. Her words stung. Old-fashioned. Heavy. Traditional. Those were the very things that made my cooking beloved for decades. But I bit my tongue and said, Of course, dear. I'll keep it simple. Yet inside I burned. I decided right then that I would bring not just one dish but an entire spread. Not to show her up but to remind her and everyone else that I still had value. That my hands, though wrinkled, could still create something worth celebrating. So when I carried those trays into her house, I carried more than food. I carried pride. I carried years of memories, love, and effort. And for her to spit on it so carelessly in front of everyone, it was the breaking point. Back to that moment in the dining room, Emily's face was changing color. Her eyes darted around the table, pleading silently with her friends not to believe me. But their expressions told the truth. They did believe me. They had seen glimpses of her sharp tongue before, but never this exposed. One man pushed back his chair. Is this true, Emily? She stammered. She's twisting everything. I never. But before she could finish, I leaned forward, my voice calm, almost gentle. Shall I tell them what you said about your own mother last week? Or shall we keep that one between us? Her mouth snapped shut. The room pulsed with tension. Some guests avoided looking at her. Others stared at me, wide-eyed, as though I had suddenly grown taller, stronger. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel invisible. I felt seen. But just when I thought I had taken back control of the night, the front door burst open. Cold air rushed in, and there stood someone I hadn't expected in a million years. Someone whose presence would change the course of the evening entirely. The front door slammed against the wall, letting in a sharp blast of December wind. Conversation froze. Every head turned. And there, framed by the twinkling porch lights and drifting snow, stood my son, Daniel. His eyes darted from me to Emily, then to the silent guests whose faces were pale with shock. He hadn't expected this. He had left earlier that afternoon to pick up more ice and drinks. I thought he would be back with a smile, maybe even a warm hug. Instead, he walked into a battlefield. What's going on here? Daniel's voice trembled with confusion. His eyes narrowed at Emily, then at me. Mom. Emily? What is this? Emily leaped up from her seat, rushing to him like a drowning woman grabbing for a rope. Daniel. Thank God you're back. She's lying. Your mother is making up stories about me, trying to humiliate me in front of our friends. Gasps rippled across the room again. I clenched my jaw, steadying myself. Emily's performance was flawless. Tears springing into her eyes, her hand gripping his sleeve as though she were the victim. She had always been good at twisting things, making herself look innocent while others looked cruel. Daniel looked at me torn. His brows furrowed, and his lips parted like he wanted to speak but couldn't find the words. I straightened my shoulders. Daniel, I'm not lying. Everything I said, she told me herself. I've bitten my tongue long enough. Tonight, after she insulted my food, I couldn't stay silent anymore. The room was so quiet, you could hear the faint hum of the Christmas tree lights. Guests shifted uncomfortably, caught between loyalty to their hostess and disbelief at what they were hearing. Daniel rubbed his temples. Why tonight, Mom? Why here? Because I thought I couldn't take being called an old woman whose food belonged to the dogs. Because years of silent humiliation finally boiled over. Because Christmas was supposed to be about love, not cruelty. But before I could answer, Emily's mother stepped forward. I hadn't even noticed her in the crowd until that moment. She was a tall woman with sharp cheekbones and cold blue eyes. The same eyes Emily used when she wanted to cut someone down without a word. Enough, she snapped, her voice slicing through the tension. This is disgraceful. Margaret, you've embarrassed yourself and everyone here. Whatever you think you heard my daughter say, you've twisted it. You should be ashamed. The guests stirred again, murmurs rising. Some nodded, others looked away. My chest tightened. I wanted to shout, to defend myself, but her words hit me like a hammer. Was I really embarrassing myself? Had I gone too far? Then John's wife, the one Emily had mocked for her Christmas sweaters, stood up. Her voice shook, but she spoke anyway. Actually, I believe Margaret. Because Emily said the same thing to me once, about Sarah's wine. A collective gasp filled the room. Emily's face drained of color. Sarah's eyes widened. You what? She hissed at Emily. The room erupted in whispers. Some guests frowned at Emily. Others glared. For once, the tide was turning against her. Daniel looked at his wife, betrayal flashing across his face. Emily, is this true? Emily stammered, her words tripping over each other. I was joking, it was harmless. Everyone jokes about these things. No, I said firmly, my voice steady. Jokes bring people closer. What you do, Emily, is tear people down behind their backs. Emily's lips quivered. She opened her mouth, but no words came. For the first time she looked small. And then in the middle of the silence the smell hit us. At first it was faint, like something burning. Guests sniffed the air, glancing toward the kitchen. Then smoke began to curl out from the doorway, dark and heavy. Oh my God, the oven! Someone shouted. Chaos broke loose. Chairs scraped back. People rushed toward the kitchen. Someone flung open a window. The fire alarm shrieked, piercing the night. Daniel bolted toward the kitchen, Emily close on his heels. I followed, my heart pounding. Inside, the turkey Emily had been roasting sat engulfed in flames. The grease had spilled, catching the bottom of the oven on fire. Smoke rolled out, stinging our eyes. Water, someone yelled. No. Baking soda. Another voice corrected. Panic swirled, but Daniel managed to grab the fire extinguisher from under the sink. With a sharp hiss, white foam smothered the flames. The turkey was ruined, blackened beyond recognition. The oven hissed, smoke filling the air. The once perfect Christmas party now smelled of burned meat and chemicals. Guests coughed, fanning the smoke with napkins and plates. Some grabbed their coats, murmuring excuses about needing to leave early. Emily stood frozen, her face pale, her eyes wide with humiliation. This was her night, her stage, and now it was in ashes, literally. I should have felt pity. But instead, I felt a strange calmness wash over me. For once, I hadn't been the one humiliated. Daniel turned to Emily, his voice low and firm. This was supposed to be our Christmas. And look at it. Emily's eyes brimmed with tears. It's her fault, she shouted, pointing at me. She cursed this party with her bitterness. The room fell silent again. All eyes turned to me. I inhaled deeply, choosing my words carefully. No, Emily. What ruined this night wasn't me. It was the lies, the pride, and the cruelty. You burned more than a turkey tonight. You burned trust. Her tears spilled over, streaking her makeup. She looked around, but no one came to her defense. Not even her mother. For a moment, I thought maybe, just maybe, the truth had finally broken through her armor. But then something I never expected happened. Emily's mother stepped closer, her face dark with anger. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "If you think you've won tonight, Margaret, you're mistaken. You've just started a war you cannot finish." Her words sent a chill through me. The room seemed to shrink, the air heavier than before. Guests shifted uneasily, sensing that something deeper, something darker, was unfolding. Daniel stepped between us, his jaw tight. "Mom. Stop. Both of you. This ends here." But I knew it didn't. Not really. Her threat hung in the air. A promise that this Christmas disaster was only the beginning of something far worse. And then, just as I thought the night couldn't spiral any further, the sound of shattering glass echoed from the back of the house. Guests screamed. Someone shouted, "Call the police." We all rushed toward the sound, only to find the back door smashed open, splinters of wood scattered across the floor. The freezing night wind howled through the gap. And standing in the doorway was a figure none of us had ever expected to see again. The cold night air rushed into the room, making the Christmas lights flicker. Everyone froze as the shadowy figure stepped across the broken glass. My heart pounded so hard it drowned out the fire alarm's fading beep. It was Michael, my estranged younger son, the one who hadn't spoken to me, or to Daniel, in over 6 years. The one who'd stormed out after a bitter family fight and never looked back. "Michael," I whispered, my voice trembling. Gasps spread among the guests. Daniel's face went pale, his fists clenched at his sides. "What the hell are you doing here?" he demanded. Michael's eyes scanned the room, landing on me, then on Emily, who looked as though she'd seen a ghost. He smirked, though his eyes held no warmth. "Well, isn't this cozy? A family gathering. Thought I'd drop by." Daniel stepped forward, blocking his path. "You broke in through the back door? What's wrong with you?" Michael laughed bitterly. "What's wrong with me? You really want to start that list, brother? Tonight of all nights." The tension snapped tighter. Guests whispered nervously, inching toward the door, unsure if this was about to become violence instead of just words. I tried to step toward him, my voice gentle, desperate. "Michael, please, this isn't the time. Let's talk privately." But Michael's smirk vanished. His expression darkened, and he pulled something from his coat pocket. At first, I thought it was just a phone. But as the light caught it, my stomach dropped. It wasn't a phone at all. It was a knife. The glint of the blade caught the light from the Christmas tree, sparkling like something beautiful and deadly all at once. A collective gasp rose from the guests, followed by sharp whispers. Chairs scraped against the floor as people shrank back, their faces pale with fear. "Michael!" I cried, my voice cracking. "What are you doing? Put that down." His jaw tightened. His hand gripped the handle like it was an extension of his arm. "Relax, Mom," he said with a half-smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I'm not here to hurt anyone. Not unless someone gives me a reason." Daniel's voice thundered across the room. "Drop it. Now." He stepped forward, his body tense, ready to shield me. The difference between my sons had never been clearer. Daniel the protector, Michael the storm. Michael's laugh was sharp and hollow. "Still the hero, aren't you, Danny? Still Dad's golden boy." He pointed the knife toward him, not close enough to strike, but close enough to freeze the air. "You think you can protect her? Protect everyone? Where were you when I needed protecting?" The words pierced deeper than the blade ever could. Daniel flinched but didn't move back. "This isn't about the past," he said firmly. "This is about right now. You're scaring everyone." The guests began to whisper louder, panic threading their voices. Some stood near the front door, ready to flee. Others looked to me, as if I could calm the storm raging before us. But my legs trembled, my hands shook. I had no idea what to do. Michael's eyes flicked to me. "Tell them, Mom," he said, his voice suddenly trembling. "Tell them what really happened. Tell them why I left. Or should I?" His words hit me like a fist to the gut. My throat went dry. Memories I had buried deep threatened to surface. The shouting, the slammed doors, the accusations that tore our family apart. Emily, of all people, was the first to speak. "What are you even talking about?" she demanded, her voice shaky but sharp. "You can't just show up, wave a knife, and act like you're the victim." Michael's glare snapped to her, and for the first time, his smirk dropped entirely. His voice was low, seething. "You should keep your mouth shut. You don't know anything." Emily took a step back, bumping into the table. Wine glasses rattled. Daniel tried again, his voice softer this time. Michael, if you want to talk, fine. Let's talk. But put the knife down first. For a moment, Michael's hand twitched, as though he might actually listen. The tension in the room shifted, everyone holding their breath. I wanted to believe he would relent, that maybe underneath all the anger was still the little boy I once held in my arms. But then he shook his head, bitter laughter spilling out. No. Not yet. You see, no one listens when I speak. No one hears me. But they'll listen now. He took a step forward and the guests cried out. I instinctively moved in front of him, my hands trembling but raised as if I could stop him. Michael, please, I begged. You don't need a knife to make me hear you. You don't need to scare anyone. You're my son. I've always loved you. His face twisted, torn between rage and pain. His voice cracked. Loved me? You took his side. You always took his side. Don't you dare say you loved me. The words ripped through me. Tears stung my eyes. He was right, at least that's how he had seen it all those years ago. He believed I chose Daniel, chose stability, chose silence over fighting for him. Daniel's voice cut through my thoughts. You left, Michael. You walked away. Don't put that on her. Michael's eyes blazed. And you stayed. You got everything. The house, the respect, the family dinners. While I got nothing but blame. The knife shook in his hand now, trembling with his rage. His voice rose. Well, maybe tonight, everyone will finally see the truth. Guests pressed closer to the door, some whispering about calling the police. Someone already had their phone out, thumb hovering. And then in the chaos, a child's voice rang out. Uncle Michael? We all turned. Near the staircase, holding a stuffed reindeer, stood my grandson. Daniel's little boy, Ethan. His eyes were wide, his voice innocent. Why do you have a knife? The room fell silent. The boy's question was pure, unfiltered, slicing through all the noise. Michael froze. His eyes softened just for a second as he looked at the child. His hand trembled harder. He lowered the knife a fraction, his breath ragged. Go upstairs, Ethan, Daniel ordered firmly, his voice urgent but calm. Now. But Ethan didn't move. He clutched his reindeer tighter, staring at his uncle with wide, questioning eyes. Michael's lips parted, his voice barely a whisper. He looks just like me. My chest tightened. He was right. Ethan had the same dark eyes, the same tousled hair Michael had as a boy. For a moment I thought that memory might be enough to break through, to make him drop the knife and surrender. For a moment hope flickered. But then Emily's voice shattered it. Daniel, get the boy away from him. He's dangerous. Michael's head snapped toward her again, fury reigniting. His face twisted, and with a roar, he raised the knife higher. Guests screamed. Daniel lunged forward. And in the chaos, Ethan screamed too. Not from fear but from pain. Blood dripped onto the floor. The sound of Ethan's scream ripped through the room like lightning. My heart nearly stopped. Time seemed to slow, every second stretching into eternity as I saw the crimson drop splatter onto the polished wood floor. No! Daniel roared, lunging forward. He grabbed Ethan, pulling him close, his eyes scanning desperately for the wound. The guests shrieked, some covering their mouths, others rushing forward before stopping themselves in fear of Michael's knife. The Christmas tree lights flickered, their warm glow mocking the horror that had unfolded in front of them. I pushed past the crowd, my hands shaking so badly I could barely reach out. Ethan. Sweetheart. Where are you hurt? Daniel peeled back the boy's sleeve, and relief rushed through me when I saw it. The cut was shallow, just a thin line on his arm where the knife had grazed him. It wasn't deep, but it bled enough to terrify us all. Michael froze, staring at the blood on his knife like it was a stranger's hand holding it. His face went pale. I didn't mean. His voice cracked, sounding more like a boy than a man. I wasn't trying to hurt him. But the damage was done. Ethan sobbed into his father's chest, trembling. Daniel's eyes blazed with fury as he turned toward his brother. You crossed a line, Michael. You hurt my son. Michael shook his head violently, dropping the knife with a clang that echoed across the floor. He backed away, his hands up, his chest heaving. No. No. I didn't mean to. I swear. Guests began shouting, some at Michael, some at Daniel, some just to each other in panic. The once festive house now resembled a war zone. Someone call 911. Sarah yelled, fumbling with her phone. Michael's eyes darted around the room like a trapped animal. Don't call them, he shouted, his voice hoarse. You don't understand. Daniel handed Ethan to me. I held the boy close, rocking him, whispering soothing words as tears streaked down my face. My hands pressed against his arm to stop the bleeding. He was scared but safe. Thank God he was safe. But my focus shifted back to Michael. His chest heaved, his hands trembling. He looked around at the guests who were glaring at him with fear and anger. He looked at his brother, who stood like a wall between him and us. And then he looked at me. His eyes softened, filled with something I hadn't seen in years, regret. Mom, he whispered. I'm sorry. I swear I didn't mean to hurt him. I just wanted you to listen. I wanted to reach out to pull him back from the edge, but Daniel's voice thundered through the room. You need to leave. Now, before the police get here. Michael's body went rigid. He shook his head. If they come, I'm finished. You don't know what I've been through these years. You don't know what I've done to survive. The guests murmured in confusion. Emily clutched Daniel's arm, her voice sharp and panicked. Don't listen to him. He's dangerous. He should be locked up. Michael's eyes snapped toward her again, fury blazing, but before he could speak, the sound of sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Red and blue lights flashed outside the frosted windows. Someone had already called. Michael's chest rose and fell faster. His gaze darted to the back door, then back to me. His voice shook. Mom, please tell them I didn't mean it. Tell them I'm not a monster. Tears blurred my vision. My heart tore in two. Between the son I wanted to protect and the grandson I had nearly lost. The pounding of fists came at the front door. Police! Open up! Guests gasped. Some cried. Daniel's face hardened as he stepped in front of us, shielding Ethan and me. Michael's eyes went wide. His hands shook violently. And before anyone could stop him, he bolted toward the shattered back door. The wind howled as he disappeared into the night. The slam of the back door echoed like thunder. And then he was gone, swallowed by the cold December night. For a moment no one moved. The only sound was Ethan's soft sobs against my shoulder, his little body trembling as I rocked him gently. Then came the pounding at the front door again. Police! Open up! Daniel strode across the room and pulled the door wide. 2 officers stepped in, their breath steaming in the winter air. Behind them, red and blue lights flashed against the snow, bathing the neighborhood in eerie color. What's going on here? The taller officer demanded, scanning the shaken guests, the broken glass, the smoke-stained kitchen, and the blood dripping from my grandson's arm. Guests erupted all at once, voices overlapping, panic pouring out in broken pieces. Knife broke in little boy hurt fire. Quiet! The other officer barked, raising a hand. Silence fell, thick and heavy. Daniel stepped forward, his voice steady but tight with anger. My brother. His name is Michael. He forced his way in, pulled a knife, and my son was cut. The taller officer scribbled quickly in a notepad. Description. 6 feet, dark hair, brown eyes. Daniel said without hesitation. His jaw clenched. He's wearing a black coat. He went out the back door about 2 minutes ago. The officers exchanged a look, then one spoke into his radio. Suspect on foot, armed male, 6 feet 0 inches, dark hair. Surround the block. Through the window, I saw more flashlights sweeping the snow. The night had transformed into a manhunt. Emily's voice cut through the tension. He's dangerous. You need to arrest him. He could come back and kill us all. Her words sliced deeper than she knew. Because beneath my relief that Ethan's wound was shallow, beneath the chaos of the ruined party, a mother's heart still beat inside me. And that heart ached for Michael, alone out there, hunted, broken. I clutched Ethan tighter, whispering to him. It's okay, darling. Grandma's got you. You're safe now. But even as I said it, I wasn't sure if any of us were safe. The officers moved quickly, asking guests to stay put until statements were taken. Some people whispered about leaving, coats already in hand, but the police shook their heads. No one leaves until we've cleared the scene. The Christmas party had officially become a crime scene. Daniel returned to us, crouching to check Ethan's arm again. His eyes were soft when he looked at his son, but when they flicked to me, they were hard. "Mom," he said quietly, "why didn't you tell me he might come back? Why didn't you warn me?" His words stung. I didn't know, Daniel. I had no idea. I hadn't heard from him in years. But even as I said it, doubt gnawed at me. Hadn't I seen the signs? The strange phone calls months ago when no one answered on the other end? The shadow I thought I'd glimpsed outside my window late one night? Had Michael been circling us all this time? Before I could say more, Emily cut in, her voice sharp and cold. "This is exactly why I didn't want her meddling in our lives." She pointed at me, her face flushed. "This is her fault. She invited this chaos. She brought him back." Gasps rippled from the guests still huddled in the corner. My stomach twisted. "That's not true," I whispered, though my voice sounded small. Daniel turned on his wife. "Emily, stop. This isn't the time." She threw up her hands. "Oh, of course. Always defend her. Even when her own son nearly kills ours." I flinched. The room tilted. Guilt pressed heavy on my chest, stealing my breath. The officers returned, interrupting the argument. "We've got units sweeping the area," one said. "We'll need statements from each of you." "Ma'am," he nodded at me, "you were closest to the suspect. We'll start with you." I nodded weakly, my voice trembling as I recounted everything. The knife, the accusations, Ethan's scream. The officer listened carefully, writing each word. When I finished, he gave a tight nod. "You did the right thing staying calm. But if he tries to contact you again, call us immediately." "Understood." I nodded again, though inside turmoil churned. Did I really do the right thing? I had revealed Michael's secrets, pushed him into a corner. And now he was out there, bleeding with rage. As the officers moved on to other guests, Daniel sank into the chair beside me, burying his face in his hands. For the first time, I saw him not as the protector, but as a man crumbling under too much weight. His voice was muffled when he spoke. "I can't believe this is happening. Christmas was supposed to be." He trailed off, shaking his head. I reached out, touching his arm gently. "We'll get through this. He's still your brother." Daniel lifted his head, his eyes blazing. "No. He's a threat. He's not the boy you remember, Mom. He's dangerous." Ethan stirred in my arms, his small voice breaking through. "Daddy, is Uncle Michael bad?" The question cut through the room like a blade. Daniel's face went pale, his mouth opening but no words coming out. He looked at me, silently begging for an answer. I stroked Ethan's hair, whispering softly, "He's not bad, sweetheart. He's just lost. Sometimes people get lost, and they don't know how to find their way back." But as I said it, I wondered if even I believed it anymore. Suddenly, a crackle from the officer's radio snapped everyone to attention. "Unit 3, suspect sighted." "Repeat, suspect sighted near the woods behind Maple Avenue. Armed and fleeing." The officer's expression hardened. "That's 2 blocks from here." The room erupted in gasps. Emily clutched Daniel's arm again. "He's coming back. I know it, he's coming back for us." The officer barked into his radio. "All units converge on Maple Avenue. Do not let him escape into the woods." The guests looked toward the back door, as though expecting Michael to burst through again at any moment. My pulse hammered. My mind swirled with fear, guilt, and something I couldn't name. And then bang! A gunshot cracked the night. The gunshot split the night like thunder, freezing every soul in the room. Conversations died instantly. Even the Christmas tree seemed to stop glowing for a second. My arms tightened around Ethan, shielding him as though my embrace could keep the danger out. The officers snapped into action. "Stay inside!" One barked as both rushed toward the door, radios crackling. The sound of boots pounded across the porch, then faded into the night. The guests erupted in whispers, fearful, frantic. Was he shot? Did he shoot someone? Is he dead? Emily clutched Daniel's sleeve, her voice rising in panic. "Do you hear that? It's him. He's out there with a gun now. I told you he'd come back for us." Daniel pulled away from her, his jaw tight. "You don't know that. Don't start." I sat there trembling, Ethan's little sobs against my shoulder the only sound anchoring me to the moment. My mind raced. "Michael, what have you done?" Minutes stretched like hours until the police radio inside the house crackled again. A voice shouted through static. Suspect fled into the woods. Officers in pursuit. One shot fired. Unclear if suspect is hit. The guests gasped again. Unclear if he was hit. That meant Michael could be out there bleeding. Or armed and more dangerous than ever. I pressed a hand to my mouth, fighting the wave of guilt crushing me. This was my son. My child. Once a laughing boy who ran barefoot through the yard chasing fireflies. Now hunted through the night like a criminal. Daniel's voice was grim. If they catch him, Mom, there's no coming back from this. He pulled a knife on my son. Now he's firing guns. This is prison we're talking about. My heart clenched. I wanted to argue to protect Michael. But how could I when Ethan's blood was still drying on my hands? Before I could answer, the sound of heavy footsteps thundered on the porch again. The door swung open, and the taller officer reappeared, his expression hard. His jacket was dusted with snow, his breath heavy. We lost him. The words sucked the air from the room. Guests gasped. Emily screamed. Daniel swore under his breath. The officer's gaze swept over us, finally settling on me. Ma'am, he said firmly, if your son comes back here, and I think he might, you and your family are his first stop. You need to be ready. The room spun. My arms tightened around Ethan. Ready? For what? And then the officer added words that made my blood run cold. Because we found this in the snow where he dropped it. He held up a folded piece of paper. My name scrawled across it in Michael's handwriting. The officer's hand gripped the paper tightly, his leather gloves dark with melted snow. The room leaned in as though the note itself pulsed with danger. My heart thundered, each beat echoing in my ears. My name, scrawled in Michael's unmistakable handwriting, glared at me from the page like an accusation. Emily's voice cut the silence. Read it. Read it out loud. Her demand was sharp, but I couldn't blame her. Everyone wanted answers. My hands shook as I reached for the note. The officer hesitated, studying my trembling fingers, then slowly placed it in my palm. The paper was damp, cold, the ink smudged by snow. I unfolded it carefully. The words inside clawed at me, each line dripping with venom, pain, and something darker. Mom, you think you're the victim, but you're not. You chose Daniel over me long before tonight. You always did. You never saw me. You only saw the son who fit your perfect picture. Now the mask is off. Tonight isn't about Christmas, or family, or your food. Tonight is about truth. And before this night is over, they will all know it. Every secret. Every lie. You can't protect them. You couldn't even protect me. Michael. The words blurred as tears stung my eyes. My knees wobbled and I gripped the back of a chair for balance. Daniel stepped forward, snatching the note from my hands. His eyes raced across the page, his jaw tightening with every sentence. He's unhinged, he spat, crumpling the paper. He's trying to turn this into some twisted game. Emily's face paled. Every secret? What does that mean? Her eyes darted between Daniel and me, suspicion blooming like wildfire. What lies? What truth? I opened my mouth but no words came. Because buried beneath Michael's bitterness, his message held a terrifying reality. There were secrets. Ones I had buried so deeply I prayed they'd never surface. And now he was threatening to drag them out. The officer cleared his throat, his tone brisk. This note means he's targeting family directly. We need to move you somewhere safe until we apprehend him. He's unstable, armed, and now he's making threats. Emily's hand shot up. Yes, get us out of here. A hotel, a station. Anywhere but this house. But Daniel shook his head, fury in his eyes. No. This is my home. I won't let him scare us out of it. We stay. The police can guard the property if they want, but I'm not running from my own brother. The officer hesitated, then nodded. We'll post a patrol outside, but I strongly advise against splitting up. Stick together in one room. He may try to break in again. The guests shifted uncomfortably, whispering. Some begged quietly to leave, but the officers refused until statements were finalized. So they stayed huddled in corners sipping cold drinks, their party clothes now out of place in this crime scene masquerading as Christmas. I sat down heavily, Ethan still clinging to me. My mind spun in a storm of guilt, memories flashing uninvited. Michael as a boy standing outside during Daniel's birthday party, tears streaming down his face because I'd forgotten to cut him a piece of cake. Michael as a teenager, begging me to believe him about something Daniel had done, but I hadn't listened. Emily's accusing eyes snapped me back to the present. "You know something, don't you?" she said suddenly. "That's why you look like that." What secrets was he talking about? The room turned to me, their stares heavy and expectant. Even Daniel's gaze was sharp, though softer, almost pleading. I swallowed hard, forcing words past the lump in my throat. "It doesn't matter. Not now. What matters is finding Michael before anyone else gets hurt." But the way Emily's lip curled told me she wasn't satisfied. She was filing that moment away like a weapon for later. The minutes ticked by like hours. Officers rotated through, taking statements, whispering updates about the search outside. The Christmas tree still twinkled weakly, but its cheer had vanished, replaced by dread. Then, suddenly, the radio on the officer's hip crackled again. "Unit 2, we found blood near the fence. Heavy trail leading north. He's hurt bad. Repeat, suspect is wounded and heading toward the old mill road." My breath caught. Hurt. My son was bleeding out in the cold. Images flooded my mind. Michael collapsing alone in the snow, his lifeblood staining the white ground, his eyes closing for the last time. I stood abruptly, my chair scraping loud against the floor. "You have to help him. He's injured, he'll die out there." The officer raised a hand. "Ma'am, please sit. We're already on it. But make no mistake, he's still armed and dangerous." Emily shot me a glare, her voice dripping with contempt. "Oh, now you care? Now that he's finally reaping what he's sown? Don't you see? If he dies out there, it's his own doing." Her words cut deep, but I didn't respond. Instead, I clutched Ethan tighter, praying silently for Michael's survival, even as the rest of the room treated him like a monster. The tension thickened as the minutes dragged. Every creak of the house, every gust of wind against the windows, made us all flinch. And then the lights flickered. At first, just a dimming, a hum. Then, with a sharp pop, the house was plunged into darkness. Gasps and screams filled the air. Ethan whimpered against me. "Grandma, what happened?" "It's okay, sweetheart," I whispered, though my heart hammered. The officer's flashlight clicked on, casting harsh beams across terrified faces. "Stay calm. Could be the storm, could be a blown fuse." But deep inside I knew. This wasn't an accident. And then, faint at first, but growing clearer, came the sound from outside. Footsteps crunching in the snow. Coming closer. The footsteps crunched steadily closer, deliberate and heavy against the snow. Every beat of sound outside felt like a hammer on my chest. The house, cloaked in darkness except for the officer's flashlight beam, seemed to shrink around us. "Stay here," the officer commanded, drawing his weapon. His light cut across the room as he moved toward the back door, his partner close behind. Guests huddled together, their whispers frantic. Emily's voice trembled. "He's here. I knew it. He's here to finish what he started." Daniel pulled her close, though his own face was pale. His eyes flicked to me, hard and searching. "If this is him, Mom, you need to be ready for what comes next." I clutched Ethan tighter, whispering prayers I barely believed would be heard. The footsteps stopped. Silence fell. Then came the sound of the door handle slowly twisting. The officers raised their guns, shouting, "Police! Step away from the door." The handle froze. For a moment, time seemed to hold its breath. Then a sharp bang rattled the door. Once, twice, like someone testing its strength. Guests screamed. Ethan buried his face in my chest, sobbing. The officer swung his flashlight toward the window, but the reflection of falling snow blinded us. "Everyone stay down," he barked. Daniel pushed Emily to the floor behind the couch, motioning for me to do the same. I crouched low, shielding Ethan with my body. My pulse roared in my ears. Then came a voice. Muffled, but unmistakable. "Mom." It was Michael. Gasps rippled through the room. Daniel's head snapped toward me, fury and disbelief in his eyes. "You hear that? He's calling for you." The officers shouted again. "Michael, drop any weapons and step away from the house." But Michael's voice grew louder, rough with pain and anger. "Mom, open the door. It's me. I'm hurt." Don't let them take me. Please. Every instinct in me screamed to run to him, to cradle him like when he was a boy scraped up from playing outside. But reason and terror held me still. He was dangerous. He had a knife. He had threatened us all. The officers advanced toward the back door, weapons steady. One signaled to the other to be ready. Daniel hissed under his breath. Don't you dare open that door, Mom. Don't you dare. My hands shook violently. Ethan clung to my neck, whispering, Grandma, is Uncle Michael going to hurt us again? I couldn't answer, because even I didn't know. Then crash. The window beside the kitchen shattered inward, glass spraying across the floor. A shadowed figure tumbled through, landing hard. And when the flashlight beam hit his face, I saw the truth. Michael was inside the house. The crash rang through the house like a bomb. Shards of glass skittered across the kitchen tiles as a blast of freezing night air rushed inside. Guests screamed and scrambled back, some shielding their faces, others dropping to the floor. The flashlight beam swung wildly, finally landing on the figure staggering upright among the glass. Michael. His face was pale, his hair matted to his forehead. Blood streaked down his sleeve and dripped onto the floor. His coat hung open, torn at the shoulder. His eyes, wild, feverish, swept the room before locking onto me. Mom, he rasped, his voice cracking. Don't let them take me. The officers leveled their guns instantly. Drop the knife, Michael. Hands where we can see them. Michael's gaze flicked toward them, then back at me. He raised one trembling hand, empty, palm out. The other still gripped the knife, though it dangled low, his strength clearly waning. No, iwisparat, clutching isang tiktar. My knees threatened to give out as memories rushed in. Michael's first Christmas stocking, his crooked grin after losing his first tooth, the way he used to beg me to read him one more bedtime story. That little boy was still somewhere inside this broken man. Daniel's voice thundered from across the room. Put it down, Michael. You've gone too far. Michael's head snapped toward his brother, his lips curling in a bitter smile. Of course you'd say that. The golden child. You always knew how to look perfect in front of her. He jabbed the knife toward Daniel, though his hand shook violently. But she never told you the truth, did she? The room went dead silent. Emily's voice, sharp and desperate, broke through. What truth? What is he talking about? Michael's laugh was hollow, almost manic. Oh, she won't say it. She never will. That's why I came back. Not just to see her, not just to crash your little Christmas fairy tale. I came back to make sure everyone knows exactly what she's been hiding. My breath hitched. My secret. The one I had buried so deep for decades, praying it would never see the light. My stomach knotted, my mouth went dry. Daniel took a cautious step forward, his eyes blazing. Don't you dare drag her into your madness. You're the one who destroyed this family. Michael's face twisted. Destroyed it? No, Daniel. She destroyed it the day she chose you over me. His eyes snapped back to mine. Tell them, Mom. Tell them what you did. Or I swear, I'll tell them myself. The officers edged closer, their guns steady, their voices low and commanding. Drop the weapon, Michael. Put it down now. But he ignored them. His whole body trembled, his eyes burning holes through me. Say it, he demanded. Tell him why I left. Tell him why I hate you both. Or I'll make sure your perfect little family hears every word while I carve the truth into the walls. Gasps spread through the guests. Emily's hand flew to her mouth. Daniel turned on me, his face pale but fierce. What is he talking about, Mom? My lips parted, but no words came. Because how could I confess the truth here, in front of everyone, with a knife hanging in the air and my grandson clutching my neck in terror? Michael staggered forward a step, blood dripping steadily from his arm. His voice grew louder, rawr. She always protected you, Daniel. You never paid the price for what you did that night. But I did. I paid every single day. And she let it happen. Daniel's jaw dropped. What night? Michael, you're insane. I don't know what you're talking about. Michael's eyes gleamed with hatred. Oh, you remember. You just buried it like she did. But it's going to come out now. They all need to know. The officers shouted again. Michael, stop moving. Drop it or we shoot. The room was chaos. Guests crying, Emily screaming at Daniel to say something. Ethan shaking in my arms, and me trapped in the center, my heart breaking as both my sons looked at me like I held the key to their destruction. I lifted my hand, my voice trembling. Michael, please, you don't have to do this. I'll tell you whatever you want, just... No. His scream cracked through the air, silencing me. You've lied long enough. Tonight, the truth comes out. And then, before anyone could stop him, Michael slashed the knife across his own palm, blood spilling fresh onto the floor. He held the dripping wound high like some twisted offering. His voice dropped to a whisper, chilling and final. Your lies end tonight, Mom. And with that, he lunged, not at the officers, not at Daniel, but straight toward me. Michael's body collided with mine before I could move. Ethan screamed as the impact knocked us backward into the dining table, plates clattering to the floor. My arms tightened around him instinctively, shielding his small body even as pain shot up my back. The officers shouted, "Drop the knife!" Their flashlights blinded me for a split second, beams cutting across the chaos. Daniel lunged forward, grabbing Michael's wrist. They wrestled for control, the knife gleaming dangerously close to all of us. The guests shrieked and scrambled into corners, some ducking behind furniture, others too frozen to move. Let go of her, Daniel roared, his muscles straining as he fought to wrench the knife from his brother's grip. Michael snarled, blood smearing across his hand and dripping onto Daniel's sleeve. His face twisted with fury and desperation. She has to pay. She has to tell the truth. I gasped, clutching Ethan tighter, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would tear through my ribs. Michael, stop. You're going to kill someone. The officers closed in, guns trained, shouting commands. Drop it. Now. But Michael only thrashed harder, his gaze wild, his strength surprising despite the blood loss. Daniel grunted, sweat dripping down his temple as he forced the blade downward, away from me and Ethan. For a terrifying second, the knife hovered inches from Daniel's chest. My scream tore from my throat, raw and desperate. No, please. Then crack. A gunshot. The room froze. The knife clattered to the floor. Michael stumbled backward, his eyes wide in shock, his hand flying to his side. Blood spread quickly through his coat. Gasps and screams erupted around us. Emily shrieked, covering her mouth. Ethan buried his face against me, trembling violently. Michael swayed on his feet, his expression a mix of pain and something that looked almost like relief. His voice came ragged, weak. She knows what you did, Daniel. She always knew. Then his knees buckled, and he collapsed to the floor. The officers rushed forward, shouting for medical backup into their radios. One knelt beside him, pressing a hand to the wound. Stay with me, Michael. Stay with me. Daniel stood frozen, his chest heaving, his fists still clenched as though he hadn't realized the fight was over. His eyes flicked to me, wide and searching. Mom, what was he talking about? What did he mean? You knew what I did. The room erupted in chaos. Guests crying, the crackle of police radios, Emily demanding answers, Ethan clinging to me whispering, Grandma, is Uncle Michael going to die? I couldn't answer. My throat closed, my mind spinning. Because Michael's words weren't empty. He had dragged the buried truth out into the open. And now Daniel was demanding what I had prayed would never be spoken aloud. The officer beside Michael shouted again for an ambulance. Blood pooled across the floor, staining the broken glass like ink spreading across paper. Michael's eyes fluttered open briefly, fixing on me with a piercing intensity that made my heart stop. His lips moved, barely audible. Tell them, or I will. Then his head lolled to the side as sirens wailed closer in the distance. And in that moment I knew the night wasn't over. The real storm, the truth I had hidden for decades, was finally clawing its way to the surface. The paramedics stormed in, their red jackets bright against the dim shadows of the blackout. Flashlights flickered across the room as they dropped heavy bags onto the blood-soaked floor. Their voices were urgent, clipped, professional. Pulses weak, BP dropping fast. Pressure on the wound, now. Guests pressed themselves against the walls, wide-eyed and pale. The Christmas tree lights had gone completely dark, its once cheerful ornaments now eerie shapes glinting faintly in the glow of emergency lanterns. I knelt on the floor, Ethan clinging to me, as I watched my wounded son surrounded by strangers fighting to keep him alive. His lips were cracked, his eyes fluttering open and closed, but every time they opened, they searched for me. For his mother. "Mom," he whispered hoarsely. I moved closer despite the officer's warning to stay back. "I'm here, Michael. I'm right here." He coughed, blood staining his lips. His eyes flicked to Daniel, then back to me. "Tell him." "Before I do." Daniel stiffened, his face pale but burning with suspicion. "Tell me what? What the hell is he talking about, Mom?" Emily grabbed Daniel's arm, her voice sharp and panicked. "Don't you see? She knows something. She's been hiding something all these years." The paramedics shouted over her, demanding space, but the words had already lodged themselves into the room like knives. I pressed a trembling hand to my chest, my heart hammering. "Not now," I whispered. "Not while he's—" "Yes, now." Daniel's voice cracked like a whip. "He's bleeding out, Mom, and his last words are about you." "What is he talking about?" Michael's body jerked as they applied pressure to his wound. His voice rasped out again, weaker now. "She knew. And she let it happen. She let you blame me." The words sliced through me. Tears blurred my vision. I shook my head, unable to speak. Emily's voice grew shriller. "What does that mean? What did Daniel do? What did you cover up?" Gasps spread through the guests. Everyone was staring at me now, the mother, the matriarch, the one holding the keys to secrets no one wanted but everyone needed to hear. Daniel's face hardened, his fists clenched. "Mom, tell me. Right now." But before I could answer, the paramedics shouted, "We're losing him, move, move. Get him on the stretcher." The crowd parted as they hoisted Michael's limp body onto a gurney. His hand dangled off the side, blood dripping to the floor, leaving a trail of red as they wheeled him toward the door. His lips moved once more as he passed me, barely a whisper but clear enough to shatter me. "Truth or death?" The sirens outside wailed louder, then faded as the ambulance sped away into the night. The house was silent for a moment, the kind of silence that presses against your ears, heavy and suffocating. Then Daniel turned to me, his eyes blazing. "You're going to tell me what that meant. Right now." I swallowed hard, my hands shaking as I tried to steady Ethan on my hip. "Daniel, please. Not in front of everyone. Not like this." Emily stepped forward, her face twisted with fury. "Oh no. You don't get to hide behind excuses anymore. Your son just broke into our home with a knife, and before he nearly bled out on the floor, he said you covered for Daniel. So what did you cover up? What did my husband do?" Daniel flinched at her words, but his eyes never left mine. His voice dropped, low and deadly. "She's right. Stop protecting me. Stop protecting him. Whatever it is, it ends tonight." The guests were frozen, caught between fear and morbid curiosity. Some shifted uncomfortably, whispering to each other. Others simply stared, waiting for the explosion they knew was coming. I gripped the back of a chair to keep myself upright. My breath came fast, shallow. My chest tightened as though invisible hands were squeezing the air out of me. "Please," I whispered, my voice breaking. "You don't understand. It was years ago. You were both so young. I was trying to protect you." Daniel's face twisted in disbelief. "Protect me? From what?" Emily's eyes widened, her voice trembling with both fear and anticipation. "Oh my God, he did something, didn't he? That's what this is about." She turned to the guests, her voice rising. "He's not the perfect son you all think he is." Daniel spun on her, his voice venomous. "Shut up, Emily." But the damage was done. Every eye in the room bore into him. Into me. I closed my eyes, tears slipping down my cheeks. I could almost hear Michael's voice echoing in my head. "Tell them, or I will." When I opened my eyes again, Daniel was inches from me, his face a storm of rage and desperation. "What did I do, Mom?" His voice cracked, softer now, almost pleading. "What did I do that you've been hiding all these years?" The room waited, holding its breath. And before I could answer, a knock rattled the front door. Not the firm, commanding knock of police. Not the hurried pound of neighbors. A slow, deliberate knock. 3 times. Boom. 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 The officer closest to the door snapped his gun up, flashlight beam trained on the knob. "Who's there?" Silence. Then a voice, muffled but unmistakable, drifted through the door. "Open up, Mom. It's me." My blood froze. Because it wasn't Michael's voice. It was another voice I hadn't heard in years. The room seemed to tilt. The air squeezed from my lungs as that voice seeped through the door again. "Open up, Mom. It's me." Daniel went rigid. His eyes darted to mine, demanding an answer. Emily clutched his arm, her face drained of color. The officer closest to the door raised his weapon higher, signaling everyone to stay back. "Who is it?" he barked. But I already knew. The sound of that voice, though older, rougher, was etched into my bones. It was David, my firstborn, the son none of them had seen in nearly 15 years. I staggered, my hand flying to my mouth. "No, it can't be." Ethan tugged at my sleeve, whispering, "Grandma, who is that?" The knock came again, harder this time. Boom, boom, boom. "Mom, don't make me wait out here." The officer pressed his back to the wall, preparing to swing the door wide. "Ma'am, do you know this man?" I opened my mouth but no words came. My mind raced. David was supposed to be gone for good. He had disappeared after the incident that had torn our family apart. The one I had buried so deep, praying never to face again. Daniel's face darkened, realization dawning. No, you said he'd never come back." Emily turned on me, her voice shrill. "What incident? What are you all hiding from me?" The room erupted in murmurs, tension choking the air. The officer's patience snapped. "Enough. We're opening this door." Before anyone could stop him, he yanked it open. And there he was. David stood framed in the doorway, taller than I remembered. His once boyish features now hardened, scarred by time and bitterness. His eyes, dark, piercing, swept the room, lingering on me, then locking onto Daniel. "Well," he said, his voice calm but cutting, "looks like I arrived just in time." Daniel's fists clenched. His voice was low, dangerous. "You shouldn't be here." David smirked, stepping inside as though he owned the place. "Oh, I should. Because tonight's the night the truth finally comes out." Gasps rippled through the guests. Emily's grip on Daniel tightened. Ethan buried his face against my neck. I trembled, caught between past and present, between the son I had lost and the son I had tried to protect. My lips parted, but before I could speak, David raised a hand. "Don't worry, Mom. You won't have to explain." His eyes bored into Daniel's. "I'll do it for you." The silence that followed was electric, every person in the room frozen, waiting for the bomb he was about to drop. And then, with a voice as steady as a judge delivering a sentence, David said, "Tell them, Daniel. Tell them about the night you killed her." The room exploded in gasps and shouts. Emily staggered back, covering her mouth. Guests screamed. The officers snapped their weapons up again, unsure who the threat was anymore. And I felt my legs give way beneath me, because the past I had buried was clawing out of the grave in front of everyone. The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. "Tell them, Daniel. Tell them about the night you killed her." Gasps rippled through the room. Emily staggered backward until her back hit the wall. Guests covered their mouths in horror, some whispering, others standing frozen as though the house itself had stopped breathing. Daniel's face went pale, then flushed red, his fists trembling at his sides. "Shut your mouth," he growled, his voice low and dangerous. David only smirked, his eyes gleaming with a cruel satisfaction. "What's the matter, little brother? Afraid the truth might stain that perfect image you've been hiding behind?" Emily's voice broke through the tension, sharp and frantic. "Killed who? Who are you talking about?" All eyes turned to me. My knees buckled, and I gripped the back of a chair to keep from collapsing. My chest heaved with every breath. My secret, the one I had buried for so long, was clawing its way to the surface. And now there was no stopping it. David stepped further into the room, his shadow stretching long across the floor. "Don't act like you don't know, Mom. You've protected him all these years. You let me take the blame, let me be the outcast, while your golden boy got to live free. But tonight it ends." I shook my head, tears spilling down my cheeks. "David, please. Don't you dare plead with me." His voice cracked like a whip. "She deserves justice. And if you won't tell them, I will." Emily's hand flew to her mouth. My God. Daniel, did you? Daniel's eyes locked on mine, wild and desperate. Mom. Tell her it isn't true. My lips parted, but no sound came. My heart screamed one thing, my conscience another. I had promised myself I would never speak of that night again. But Michael's words still echoed in my mind, tell them, or I will. And now David was here, forcing my hand. The room spun with whispers and gasps. Ethan whimpered against my chest. Finally, with my whole body shaking, I spoke. It was 15 years ago. The room fell silent. Even the officers lowered their weapons, listening. I swallowed hard, my voice trembling as memories I had fought to bury clawed their way back into the light. There was a girl. Her name was Jessica. She was David's girlfriend at the time. David's eyes flashed with pain, though his jaw stayed tight. One night, there was a fight. Jessica had found out things she shouldn't have. Things about the business, about money, about lies. She threatened to go to the police. I remember shouting, so much shouting. Daniel's fists clenched tighter, his knuckles white. Mom, stop. I pressed on, my words spilling out like poison. David was drunk. Michael wasn't even home. But Daniel, you followed her outside when she left. And when she turned her back to you, my voice broke. My hands shook so violently I nearly dropped Ethan. You pushed her. Gasps filled the room. Emily's knees gave out, and she slid to the floor, sobbing into her hands. The guests erupted in horrified whispers. Daniel's face twisted, his eyes blazing with fury and fear. That's not true. You're lying. He spun on David. This is your trick, isn't it? You've always hated me. You want to ruin me. But David stepped closer, his voice steady, cold. I was there, Daniel. I saw it. You shoved her. She hit her head on the rocks. And she never got up. Emily screamed, covering her ears. Daniel lunged at David, but the officers intercepted, grabbing his arms and holding him back. Let me go, he roared, thrashing like a wild animal. I fell to my knees, my sobs shaking my whole body. I covered it up, I whispered. I told everyone Jessica had run away. When the police came, I told them David had been drinking and got violent, that she must have fled from him. I thought I was protecting my family. I thought if the truth came out, we'd all be destroyed. David's face twisted with rage and grief. You let me be branded a monster. You let everyone think I drove her away. My life was ruined because of you. And him. Daniel thrashed harder, veins bulging in his neck. It was an accident. She slipped. I didn't mean to. His words broke off, but it was too late. The confession had slipped through. The room erupted in chaos. Guests screamed. Emily wailed, her whole body shaking. The officers forced Daniel to the ground, pinning his arms behind his back. You're under arrest, one officer barked. No. I screamed, crawling forward, my hands outstretched. Please, please, he's my son. But it was no use. The handcuffs snapped shut around Daniel's wrists. His face twisted with rage and betrayal as he stared at me. You said you'd protect me. You promised. I sobbed, my heart tearing apart inside me. I couldn't lie anymore, Daniel. Not after tonight. Not with Ethan watching. He has to know we don't hide the truth. Not like I did. Daniel's body went limp as the officers dragged him toward the door. Emily followed, sobbing hysterically, screaming his name. David stood tall, though his eyes glistened with unshed tears. Finally, after all these years, the guests began to file out, whispering to each other, their faces pale with shock. The once festive house was now a crime scene, littered with broken glass, bloodstains, and shattered illusions. I clutched Ethan, rocking him gently as his small body trembled. It's okay, sweetheart. It's over now. But even as I said the words, I knew it wasn't truly over. The scars of this night would remain forever. The officers led Daniel out into the flashing lights of police cars. Emily's wails echoed through the night. David lingered in the doorway, his shoulders heavy, his face lined with pain. He looked at me one last time. You chose the wrong son to protect. Then he turned and walked into the darkness. I sank into a chair, clutching Ethan, my tears soaking his hair. The room was empty now, silent but for the faint hum of distant sirens. And I realized the truth I should have known all along. Secrets don't stay buried. Lies may protect for a season, but they always rot and return to destroy. I had tried to shield my sons by hiding the truth. Instead, I had destroyed them. The life lesson was clear, carved into my heart with unbearable pain. The truth may hurt, but lies will kill. Dear viewers, my name is still Margaret from the quiet suburbs of Ohio. I am 68 years old, and you've just walked with me through one of the darkest nights of my life. If you've stayed with me until now, please subscribe, like this story, and click the notification button so you don't miss the next one. And tell me, where in the country are you watching from? I'd love to know. Because maybe, just maybe, by sharing this, someone out there will choose honesty before it's too late.